Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to Committee as a Whole for Human Resources and Education, Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. Ms. Campbell, could I have the roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mike's not working this afternoon. Mr. Green.
Here.
Mrs. Hines.
Here.
Mr. Derman.
Here.
Mr. Luke.
Here.
Mr. Harold.
Here.
Mr. Nation. Mrs. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Winkler. Here. Mrs. Drucker.
Here.
Mr. Betancourt.
Here.
Mrs. Lamy.
Present.
Mr. Hersey.
Here.
Mr. Breaux.
Here.
Mr. Kuzan.
Here.
Mrs. Page.
Here. Please stand and join us in the invocation led by Ms. Lamy.
Please bow our heads. Father God, thank you so much for bringing us here tonight safely, Lord. Please be with us as we make decisions, guide us, and guard us. Lord, help us to work together as a team and to move forward, focusing on our students. And we thank you for all you do for us in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any board members who would like to recognize any visitors? Anyone? Okay. Public comments. 5 minutes. We have Mr. Anthony Alford. Mr. Anthony Alford, welcome. Please step to the podium and state your name and the city where you're from.
My name is Anthony Alford, and I'm from Slidell, Louisiana. Okay. Thank you very much. First, thanks to the board for this giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you for my board member here, he was one of my products, and I'm very proud to say that sometimes. But he's a good guy. It was nice just communicating again with a lot of the board members that I knew and the ones that knew my son also. And I had a real nice conversation with most of them, and I feel real good about it. And I would say this, that St. Tammany Parish school system has been one that I do love and cherish. I've worked, and it's been good to me. What I'm going to say just a few words tonight is the importance of a race equity policy. And as I look at the definition, as if I were a teacher at the time, I would ask my students, what is the definition of ethics? And they would probably answer, ethic is the quality of being fair and impartial. Those are two of the key words that I think about when we think about ethics and we think about the policy. And I know you also believe in fairness, treating folks right, and things of that sort. So that is the hallmarks of really my point is to get a policy that will guarantee everybody that fairness and equity, regardless of race, creed, or color. Equity is something that we all desire in our treatment. One of the things as a teacher, that's one of the factors that I taught my kids long ago, is to treat everybody in a fair manner and do the things that is right. I'm very passionate about that. even though from time to time, in this system, when I grew up, things were not as they should have been at the time. I'm 2 months shy of 85, and I can think I'm thinking about, and just thinking about some of the things that happened, it kind of fills me up. But one thing that really struck me as a young kid in third or fourth grade, probably 75 years ago, when I was there, was my bus driver. And he didn't, the bus driver did, we were the only kids, black kids in St. Tammany that rode the bus. Of course, we rode the white bus. Our folks, the elders of the community, got together with the school board folks, and they told them they had to ride us. And but this bus driver hated us. Not only did he hate us, but he showed us that he hated us. And as a little third or fourth grade kid, things like that stick into your mind. At least it stuck into my mind for so long, you know, just to be treated. And I just mentioned that story about equity. I know that's 75 years ago, and things have changed since then, I know. But things sometimes just sticks with you there. When I think about fairness and treatment, that sometimes runs across my mind. But I made up in my mind that that was not going to define who I was. And as a result, I would say I had a great career with the St. Tammany Parish School Board. I served as teacher, principal, assistant principal, and also the assistant director under this guy right here. So, and I thank you a lot for that. But it is so important that we pass, that we study and pass. It's a process that we're going through in order to get to that point. But as I talked with several board members this morning, I felt good from having spoken to most of them, and it appears that they have a positive attitude and wanting to work with us in developing a policy of that type that will be fair to everybody, regardless of race, creed, or color. Having said that, I have a document here, and I've shown it to some of the board members already. It's basically, we might have to change a few words here and there, but it's basically a process, and I might read over a few of them. I don't have much time. Number one, a race equity policy must first be passed, by the board. That is to say that, they are in agreement to really have to that. The second step is the St. Tammany Parish School Board will then direct the parish superintendent, his or her staff, to develop a race equity plan that is fair and equitable to all. The next is consideration should be given to hiring a certified consultant that has the expertise and a proven track record of drafting and developing a race equity policy for the school board to assist the superintendent and his staff. I know a lot of us, as I was talking to some of the board members this morning, they felt that that might be a good idea to do such because a lot of us might not have the knowledge to really develop a program of that type. The next one was have and encourage public input from the St. Tammany Parish community and also give consideration of inclusion, where applicable, of the proposed action plan submitted to by the group for the good of Slidell. That is that we should get input from the public and get their feelings concerning a program of this type. The completed policy should be viewed and cleared by the St. Tammany Parish School Board legal attorney to protect the St. Tammany Parish School Board from a legal standpoint as far as the exposure that they might have. Once the policy is completed, the St. Tammany Parish School Superintendent will then present the plan to the St. Tammany Parish School Board for their input and review, after which the board will make a decision as to far as passing that. I thank you. And again, as I said, I feel very passionate about our passing of such a policy. Not only that it will guarantee us, but it will hold everybody accountable so that if the policy is broken, there should be some type of repercussions when that happens. So I want to say thank you again, and I have faith in this system, and I have faith in the school board members here. As far as fairness, I know you want that, and I feel that we will be able to have that if you work with us, and we can get over this. I want to thank you a lot, and thank you for being a part of St. Tammany Parish School System.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. Appreciate that, really do, really appreciate that. I don't believe we can have Mr. Kuzan.
I'd like to offer a motion to open agenda to discuss Mr. Alford's request. I said I'd like to offer a motion to open the agenda to discuss Mr. Alford's request. Got a second? Well, Mr. Alford has brought up a lot of the things that we need to look at. And I feel that everyone should have an opportunity to discuss this before we come up with a final plan. And this is why I would like to open the agenda so we could discuss it right here now. I don't see any reason why we couldn't. I'm a 50-year man with this. I'm a 50-year person with this school system. And I've always taught my students, I've always counseled my students to be fair. And I've always, and everybody that know me know, I've always tried to be fair. So I just think in this situation that we should give everyone an opportunity to discuss their position, whether they agree with Mr. Alford or disagree with Mr. Alford. I think we should be offered that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, the motion's in order, but it takes a unanimous vote to change the agenda. Do we have a unanimous vote that the agenda needs to be changed?
That's,
We're good.
can that,
Okay, I call for the vote. So all those in favor, raise your hand, please.
I wanted to make a comment before we.
1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Hersey, you have the floor to make a comment.
As do
I think we need to open it up to the public for comments and for the board members to comment on it. Is that not correct? For discussion before we vote on this? I'm just asking, I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have board comments, please. We'll go ahead and we will start this way with Ron, and we'll roll our way around to the floor, just like we've done. We'll go up with Mr. Winkler and end with Mr. Nation with board comments, and we'll take comments from the public, and then we'll vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. I would think this motion would be better addressed at a Business Affairs and Administration Committee as a whole meeting. And I was thinking, after we've had some input from different board members, that it would possibly be an agenda item on October's committee as a whole meeting. So I would suggest that we hold off till then and do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hersey? Mr. Green? Ms. Strucker? Ms. Strucker?
Take off your mask.
Can you hear me? I concur with Mr. Minnick in regards to, I think it'd be better spent with our time so we can really delve into the questions regarding the equity policy as a whole versus during public comment.
Mr. Breaux?
My only comment is I'm not prepared to discuss it tonight.
Mr. Kuzan, did you have any additional comments?
No, none.
Okay, Ms. Lamy?
I just want to say, if we put it on another agenda, that's great. I just would love to be able to have just discussion, and from there, see where it goes.
Okay, Ms. Richardson?
I just want to confirm, is it going to be placed on the October agenda as I requested about a week ago? I haven't heard back from our board chair.
I haven't discussed that with Mr. Javia, and so we'll see what the October agenda looks like.
I'm sorry, 170-plus individuals have requested this. 2 board members, I think a third, has requested that it be added to the agenda. I feel it appropriate that we follow policy and add it to the agenda. I respect the fact that we want to give our administration the ability and time to launch our school year. But there's no harm and no additional conversation to be had to put it on the agenda. If it doesn't get a second, we don't even get to discuss it. So I do not understand why we cannot make a commitment. Thank you.
Ms. Heights?
I'd just like to comment that I think the October agenda would be more appropriate than this evening.
Mr. Winkler? Mr. Winkler?
I think Mr. Albert has put together a pretty good timeline on this. So basically, he's kind of made, one of the recommendations I had was that we get some of, our people from the board and people from the community and people from their organization because I've done a little legal research into this, and we need this for our district, because if we don't set out ways to follow guidance on this, and somebody does something wrong, the first question is going to be asked legally is, did they follow the policy? And then we're going to say, well, we don't have a policy. Then we're in trouble. So we do need to do this as soon as possible. I know it's kind of a last-second thing for this meeting, so we do need to get on that October meeting and get this looked at and work it out like we have many other policies.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Durman? Coach Loop? Mr. Harrell? Mr. Nation? Okay, so the public comment? Yes, ma'am. Welcome. And if you could just state your name. Hey, state your name and city, where you're from.
I'm Karen Vander, Slidell, Louisiana.
Sure.
I just want to make note that the policy, the draft that the committee I represent submitted this on July 20th. So here we are, September 3rd. The board has the information. I'm struggling with why do we need to continue to put off discussing. I've asked, I've pleaded, I've sent emails saying, let's sit and talk. I've tried to call y'all. I've only talked to a couple of y'all. You don't return calls, you don't return emails. Why are we waiting? The time is now. I didn't intend to come up here today. I did request to be on the agenda next week to present to you the statistics, which I've sent to every single one of you multiple times. And no one wants to see it or read it, except for the few board members that's sitting right here, these three right here. And I have talked to Mr. Betancourt, but the rest of you, and I've met with Mr. Nation and Mr. Jabia. So I'm struggling. I'm really, as a parent, as speaking for the group that I'm with, I'm struggling with why are we sitting on this? The agreement that Mr. Jabia made to me is that he and I were going to come to the table. He was going to have whatever staff he needed to come up with a policy that was agreeable to bring in October so that we could be voting on a policy, not discussing a policy. So here we are, September 3rd from July 20th, and we're still trying to debate whether we're going to discuss this. I mean, come on. I mean, yes, there's a lot going on, but the time is now. These children need to have, all of them, we need fairness amongst all the children, just like Mr. Alfred spoke and said. What more do we need? I've come to you, I've sent testimonies, I don't know, just tell me what you need to get this discussed. And I will do it. I will work with the people. There's people all back in that back audience back there that's here tonight waiting for something to be done. And that's all I'm asking as a parent and representation for the good of Slidell. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, sir. Please approach the podium. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Welcome. If you could please just state your name and the city where you're from.
My name is James Gus Davis. My parents moved here when I was 5 years old. I've been in Covington for 70 years. It's the greatest country in the world. I'm a Vietnam veteran, got 3 Purple Hearts. When we came back from Vietnam, people in the United States was marching against us. I got 3 sons, graduated from Covington High. They went here. I worked here in Covington Middle School under Lord McKee for 8 years before I went to the post office. But this is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. I have 2 sons. One of my sons went to Iraq 3 times. Thank God he's home. And 2 of my sons were Delta Storm at the same time. I tried to get the Red Cross send one home, but I got 3 sons. They all graduated at Covington High, 1982, 89, and 1992. And this is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. Now, like I said, I had the opportunity to see 4 or 5 other continents in my life, Africa, all over the place. And it's still the greatest country in the world. I'm fighting for this country, putting my life on the line. My 2 sons fighting for this country and putting my life on the line. And we got to come back here and act for equality in our own hometown. Back when I went in the service, they drafted people. They don't do it anymore, which was a good thing. If they did that, maybe it wouldn't be getting all these shooting outside right now. This is a world for all people. Blacks are seen to be treated worse than any nationality in here. When I was still in Vietnam, a lot of Vietnamese came here while I was still in the war. I have no problem with those people. But everybody has a problem with black people. We didn't ask to come here. Y'all brought us here. So we here. So you need to treat us like whatever. All these people in church all the time, for what? We got a lot of different color skin, but all of us the same. If you're going to die, my blood will save you too. So this stuff needs to get over with. I worked here 8 years. I worked at the post office here in Covington for 25 years. I got 3 sons. I graduated Covington Rosenwald High. Covington Rosenwald, where the old center is over here, across from the park in 1964. All my sons went here, my daughter. But we have to fight in 2020 about equal rights. This don't make sense. It do not make sense. And this stuff should be put in there for equality. Y'all got that much hate for black people that you want to just shoot them on sight? That don't make sense. Police. I was offered a job in Washington, D.C. I worked for UPS up there 5 years. Delivered 2 blocks from the White House, Constitution Avenue. And plus I also was a security guard at the Smithsonian Institution. But we have to fight just to get equality in the schools in the South? That don't make sense. I died for this country, almost did. My sons, we fighting for the same country, but we have to fight for a right to get equality in our school system? That don't make sense. This is 2020. This is not 1940 or 1950. So something needs to be done. You need to get off this old type of stuff and try to be people in this world today. Ain't nobody trying to take nothing from you. We working hard. We need to do something. I almost died for this country. My son served overseas. And yeah, we still have to come back and fight for education in our own community. I've been here for 70 years. I was 69 years. I'm 74. My parents moved here when I was 5 years from Jackson, Mississippi, with a sawmill. A lot of other black people did. So, and we talking about this time when I went to school, and we still fighting harder now than it was back then. It don't make sense. All these educated people and all this stuff, but we put our life on the line for this country too. But we can't get the fairness from the school system that we live in. It don't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? Yes, ma'am. Welcome. Please state your name and just the city where you're from, please, for the record.
Thank you. I'm Patricia Stout from Mandeville
Thank you.
for 30 years or so. So I've worked as a mental health provider in the St. Tammany Parish schools, and I didn't plan to come and speak tonight. I feel moved to speak. I support Karen Vander and For the Good of Slidell and the speakers who have presented. Gus Davis knows my husband's a Vietnam veteran as well. So, I'm also I'm a clinical social worker, and I know that in our consciousness, we use the iceberg symbol, that 10% of what's going on that we're aware of is the 10%, and then 90% of it is under the surface. And institutional racism and white supremacy culture is very real. And so a lot of it happens unconsciously by good people who don't mean to. And if we don't have education about this and policies in place that teach us how to act differently than we're intergenerationally encoded to act, we will continue to act in ways that propagate white supremacy culture in all of our institutions, including education. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, welcome. Welcome. Again, please state your name and the city where you're from for the record.
My name is Coco Darrow. I'm from Mandeville, Louisiana. Obviously, Louisiana. I also wasn't prepared to speak, and I'm bad at speaking, so bear with me. But I'm coming in support of Karen Vander and the equity policy. It's actually really surprising to me that to kind of glean that this might not be a priority. I would really like to see by the end of this meeting that a date was set to discuss and vote on it. And I think that's a simple enough request. And I think that would show the community the dedication we have to acknowledge them and respond to their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Welcome. Please state your name and where you're from, please.
Jordan Johnson, Mr. Jordan Johnson, Lacombe. Great evening, everyone, and thank you guys for having me. So I just want to kind of speak briefly on a few different things as well. I'm a part of a group online that I mentioned last time at the last board meeting in my hometown, and I'm in support of the equity policy as well, and it's primarily not just for African Americans, it's for inclusive of all minorities. I have personal engagements and occurrences that have addressed other nationalities and minorities as well, indirectly in a derogatory terms, from a person of leadership in my own engagements as far as in corporate America. So the purpose of this policy, as I stated, is to kind of start from a foundational standpoint from here in St. Tammany. And we are, if I'm not mistaken, the richest parish in the States, very advanced when I was in school at Fontainebleau as far as academics, and of course a lot of people move from the South Shore and other areas because of our education system. It is top tier, and I want to commend, of course, all the works from you guys' standpoint from back then up until now. So from here, as we've all stated, we know things are changing all around us, and we understand that. And just like any championship team, you need all the key factors and players to, of course, win a championship, any team. Just as you guys are instrumental, so is the general public, and anybody else that's a part of this policy and beyond. So is those players, so is the families, this and that. So this is not on you guys' shoulders alone. So I want to make that very clear. It's for all of us to work hand in hand with each other. And just because you guys may disagree or with a point to see some of the same things that the gentleman mentioned for 70-plus years, I know myself personally, I've dealt with it. And I may not have spoken of that until recently to my own peers of my own age. So therefore, if I'm dealing with it my own self and I'm hearing about my niece still dealing with it now in 2020 at her respective schools, then I think that's the time for change. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but in California, very progressive in many ways, some ways some people disagree with, but they just unanimously passed an equity policy and equality policy for 23, 24 seniors to have taken some kind of elective class for African American studies or some kind of minority course, and it's to make it as early as 21, 22, if I'm not mistaken. So things are changing just across the board, and majority of the reason why we're having so much turmoil, tension, and disagreements is because of a lack of understanding, nothing else, and nothing simple. So therefore, if we're influenced by our counterparts, our circles of influence, our own family even, and therefore just a simple conversation, you guys can kind of understand where we're coming from, where you guys are coming from, and be able to bridge the gap rather than widen it. So I want to be very clear that I respect you guys' time. I know you guys have an outside world outside of the school board and so many other things going on, personal life, work, what have you. May have some victims and some family members directly affected by the hurricane. But that's where, quote unquote, the team comes into place. People out here in the audience, you guys help, we lean on each other, as we all have in this country for many other reasons as well. So I want to make it a very point to where if we continue to put it off for anything else that we do, in your own respective work and your own respective jobs, if you guys continue to put things off as well, and either your boss or somebody higher up would need it, how patient do you think they'll be as well? Or if there's something that directly affects somebody that you care about, or somebody that you know. So it's not a point to, of course, continue to push, but just to kind of put things in perspective. Because if I'm hearing from some of your own constituents, lower past and present school teachers, that are reaching out to us because they don't feel vindicated enough to speak or be vocal for lack of retaliation, then that's other issues as well. We're not just talking about students. We're talking about administration. We're talking about employees as well that's employed by the school system. They don't even feel confident enough to speak up in regards to things that they've directly affected. So, of course, if we know that their salary is an issue and they're also not getting respect from their parents, from the school board administration, in their own workplace, and they love what they do, and they're looking to affect the leaders of tomorrow, we all have to come together at some point in time to work together on something as simple as this. We know this is going to be something that's going to continue to work on. It's not going to happen overnight. But just as a team, that rebuilding phase in each respective sport, you got to take the first step first. Go to practice, we work together, we fail together, but we're going to succeed together as well. So I just wanted to put that in perspective, guys, that it's a unit. It's not just on you guys to do it. It's a unit for us to work together. That's the most thing. So we can show the next generation that we're moving past this collectively as not only a state, a parish, but as a country. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Welcome. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Debbie Green from Slidell, Louisiana. I'm also the president of St. Tammany Federation of Teachers and School Employees. I did have come prepared for a speech, but I missed the time, so God is good all the time. Okay, I rise this evening in full support of the Racial Equity Policy and Action Plan. As an educator for 34 years, most of that time in St. Tammany, I have encountered many of the discrepancies that are mentioned in the proposed equity policy. As fifth-year president of the Teachers and School Employees Union, it has become magnified to a greater extent. Students are very perceptive. They know when they're in a space where they are cared for and encouraged to succeed, whether it is a person of color or not. All students value being motivated and feel that someone believes in their abilities. I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama was elected President of the United States. So many young black males saw someone who looked like them and envisioned maybe one day I too can be president. Before then, it was just a thought. To believe in your dream, you must see your dream in someone else's reality. It is imperative that St. Tammany Parish schools hire teachers of color to reflect the students that are in our parish. Equity is the impartial distribution of justice. The 1954 Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, was a landmark decision of the United States Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the U.S. state laws established racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in quality. Today, we are in an arena where those schools are integrated, they're still not equal in quality. St. Tammany has a great opportunity in front of us. We can be the trailblazers in making sure that all students are on equal footing with teachers who look like them, or if not, teachers who understand and accept their cultural differences by striving to enhance and nurture those differences. The St. Tammany Federation of Teachers, along with the American Federation of Teachers, have many professional development offerings on cultural differences, diversity training, and restorative practices that are free to all employees, just for the asking. We would be more than willing to assist in this area. One thing I just want to say, and you've heard it, it's an old cliche, but it means more now than ever. If not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Yes. Welcome. Please state your name and where you're from.
Good evening. My name is Robert Broom. I'm from Slidell, and I wanted to make a few points based on this, the comments earlier. First, the board needs to remember what you're being asked to do is simply get it on the agenda for further discussion. We're not trying to vote on, a policy yet. And the second thing I wanted to say is, I come to a lot of these meetings and I know a lot of these people here, and I fully agree with every one of you that we have the best school system in the state. Every one of you says that, believes that, and acts on that. And having this equity policy or an equity policy is simply part of being the best school system in the state. And an equity policy isn't just for minorities. I want an equity policy for all the children and all the employees, and frankly, all the people and all the taxpayers and voters of St. Tammany Parish. We deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Campbell. The motion on the floor is to add discussion about the equity policy this evening to this evening's agenda, correct? Correct? Okay. Oh, since we don't have our voting available through our computers because we have board members on the floor, we will do a show of hands. Is that how we will do it? Is that the suggestion?
We have the ability to vote on the computer.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
Then
I'm
let's
sorry.
do it
Yeah,
on the
they're all-
computer.
They're all working.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Javier, because it's not an open item on the agenda, I would have to go back and recreate that for the meeting to be able to.
Yeah, we can either recreate it or you can do it by show of hands.
Why don't we just do a show of hands and we can work together with watching of the hands together. So, yeah, Shelton, did you have a question or comment? Certainly.
Ms. Page, am I allowed to make a sub-motion to, instead of voting on adding it to the agenda tonight, may I make a sub-motion to add it to the October agenda?
I don't know if that's Ms. Renation, Ms. Heights.
You can make a substitute motion.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, let's have the attorney answer that question. Jana,
Would you
please? Could you please come to the podium and
May I
answer the
make a
question, please?
sub-motion to add it to the October agenda?
I think the appropriate way to handle it would be to address the motion that's on the floor first, and then take up your motion after that, not
Well, usually
not
there's a
as
sub-motion. That's why I'm saying that's usually done before you vote on the motion. Someone makes a sub-motion.
Hey,
Could you
Shelter,
clarify?
we're going to go ahead and go with
My
Jana because
recommendation
she's
is
an
that you vote
attorney.
on the motion that's on the floor currently. And then if it does not,
If it fail, okay, I got you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jabby. I appreciate it.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to add discussion on the equity policy. Please raise your right hand if you would like to do that this evening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you have it written down? Okay. Please raise your hand if you do not want the policy added to the discussion tonight. 10?
We have one that didn't vote. We have anybody who abstained?
I think we're missing one person, aren't we?
Did I not count correctly? Y'all raise your hands again. Oh, I missed hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's how I missed.
Okay, so the motion fails.
So do I
Okay,
get to make my sub-motion?
just a minute, Shelter. Yes,
Then I
you
would
do.
like to please make a sub-motion to add it to the October agenda, please. Do I have a second?
You seconded this one?
I don't know who seconded.
I think she did. You got it? Okay.
So the motion is a sub-motion to add it to the October agenda, correct?
And that is just a vote that requires majority, am I correct, to our council? Okay, so not unanimous, but majority. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a motion. All those in favor, raise your right hand, please.
Well, we gotta have discussion first.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so go ahead and have comments from the board, please. Yes, Ms. Heights.
I'm certainly not a Robert's Rule of Order expert, but I don't see how we can entertain the motion because we didn't open the agenda to allow a motion. I mean, like I say, I'm not a Robert's Rule of Order expert, but I don't think entertaining this motion follows that guidelines. And I just, I believe that we need to keep with rules in that respect. I think it's certainly appropriate to request the president, just as a request. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
the
Kuzan.
motion was to open to discuss. Okay, your motion failed, but I think Ms. Richardson had a different motion. Yes, she added a substitute motion, but what I'm saying is
No,
my
she didn't.
motion
She made a
originally
motion.
was to discuss it. So that motion failed, right? Okay.
Correct.
I wanted to discuss it, right? So it's failed, okay?
Correct. Yes, Ms. Heights, did you have a comment?
Furthermore, we're not even into the, business portion of our meeting. I mean, we're strictly on public comments. So I just don't even know that a motion is appropriate. I'm like I say, I'm a rule follower. I believe we should follow the rules. And I don't know who's going to rule on that, but.
Okay, Shelter?
Ms. Hines,
Agenda at any time.
Yeah.
You can
Go
vote
ahead.
to open the agenda.
I understand that, Mr. Kuzan, but that motion failed. So in other words, we're not opening the agenda.
The
I
motion on
think
the
I have
floor
the
for,
floor. I
hold just
do.
a moment, just a second, Shelter.
Okay.
The motion that Shelter has made on the floor is that I just want to just to say it again, is that she wants it added to the October agenda. That's not a substitute motion. It is a motion on the floor, and we're having board discussion. Shelter, you're welcome to discuss.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Page. And Ms. Hines, I respect you greatly. I hope and trust you know that. And I am also a rule follower. I continue to bring up Robert's Rules of Order. I am simply just asking that since we've been incapable of getting even email, just professional courtesy is typically a 24-hour business day. I can't even get a response from our board chair, so I'm asking my board to please do the right thing, listen to your constituents, and we don't have to discuss it tonight. I'm asking to put it on the agenda. Our constituents have asked, I believe we're closer to 200 requests at this point. I'm asking to have it formally put on the agenda since our board chair is incapable of making that decision in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you, Shelta. Do we have any, yes, Mr. Derman?
Thank you, Ms. Page. I tend to agree with what Ms. Heinz is saying, is that this is an item that's coming from public comments that is not on our agenda. Therefore, is not an agenda item that is votable. The motion originally was to open the agenda, which failed. So in that essence, I mean, I think we can all agree that placing this item on the October agenda will be fine. Let's just do a gentleman or gentlewoman's agreement. I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm just saying let's just move on, because it's going to take a lot more preparation than what any of us have here tonight to even begin to discuss the different aspects of this policy and how it should end up looking. We're going to spend here all night going back and forth over something we can't even vote on. And I mean, let's do it the right way. And as far as not answering questions on emails about this subject, because this item is more than likely, without a shadow of a doubt, going to come before this board, we are not to discuss it on email, back and forth with each other and the members of the public, because it is illegal for us to do that. So I do take offense to the fact that we don't respond, but we cannot legally respond based upon the law. So because it will be an item that comes before this board, we are not allowed to discuss it back and forth. It's called a rolling quorum. And I understand y'all's deep concerns, and I've known Gus Davis for 30 years, and I respect him highly. I really do. And I know Mr. Anthony. Same, and Ray was a good, great friend of mine, and I asked about Karen tonight. But people, let's do this the right way so the outcome is correct. Let's don't go haphazard at it, and then have a lot of animosity at each other because we can't agree about the process. We need to work on the outcome. So that's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. I believe Mr. Jabbia had a comment that he'd like to make.
Yeah, if you would allow me, I'll have a discussion with Mr. Nation and see if we can get it added to the October agenda. Okay?
Okay.
Be glad to
Okay.
do that.
Okay, do we have any other discussion from the board regarding that?
Is that
Okay.
motion withdrawn?
No, I don't believe the, yes. You are withdrawing your motion. Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Richardson has withdrawn her motion.
Because it was out of order.
Next on the agenda, approval for minutes for committee as a whole that was held on August 6, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right. Do I have any discussion from the board?
Make the motion, minutes.
Mr. Betancourt and Ms. Height second it. Do we have any questions from the board regarding the minutes? Any comments from the public? Let's all vote, please. Okay. 12 yeas, 0 nays, 2 abstains. The motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Jabbia, Human Resources.
Thank you, Ms. Page. We have nothing to bring before the board tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Next, curriculum and instruction update. Ms. Lemaine, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction.
Good evening, Ms. Page, board members, Mr. Jabia. Tonight I have a presentation, back to school, moving forward. PowerPoint.
You got her, Helen, put her on there.
Okay, great.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay. So as we get started, we know that next week will begin our Safe Start Days for students in grades pre-K through 12, both for our brick and mortar students as well as our virtual school students. For our brick and mortar students, they will each report 1/4 of the students each day, as you see above with the alphabet described. Also, too, for our virtual school, it will be a Safe Start week for them as well. We will be hosting virtual orientations each day following the same schedule that you see on the slide. For our Safe Start days for the brick and mortar, again, just a quick reminder that we will be our teachers will be engaging with students in those safety protocols and also those routines that will be needed, especially for those students on the hybrid days and the days when they are not going to be on campus. Also, too, in addition, for our Safe Start days, one of the primary pieces that we'll be focusing on will be our bus counts, our daily bus counts. I've been working with Mr. Bodie with transportation, and our schools are updating the information that they have in their system. So those parents that we haven't heard from with our survey, the teachers are reaching out to all of those parents to determine whether their student is going to be a car rider or a bus rider, so we can get, some soft numbers this week, and then next week, as we roll through those quarter days, we'll be able to shore up those numbers to make sure that we're at the right threshold for the following week when all of the students will attend based on their particular schedule. So looking at some of the things that we've had going on, I'm going to start out with our virtual school. So you can see some of the photos that we've shared. Right now, our virtual school count is currently a little over 5,000. And so we've been working diligently. We have about 300 to 400 students at each grade level. Currently, we have 48 teachers that are assigned to the virtual school. Some of those teachers are teachers that we hired for the virtual school, but a large portion of those teachers are coming from some of the staff at our existing schools, meaning our coaches and interventionists who aren't connected to classrooms full of students. So with using them as teachers with the virtual school, it's a way for us to have the number of teachers that we need and not have an impact on the class sizes back at the school, because certainly we wouldn't want to start shifting enrollment or shifting staff right now and having to change our class sizes at our schools, knowing that, we'd like to keep those numbers as low as we possibly can to maintain the maximum amount of social distancing in our classrooms as we are able to. So looking at our virtual school, so you've gotten a little update on the count as far as our number of students and our teachers. And again, next week will be our virtual orientation with these students. And they also have been participating in a packet pickup for the grades kindergarten through 5th grade. This week, we started those pickups, and those are some of the photos that you see. Those packets are actually copies that we've created for the parents and students that follow along with what's online. So as a courtesy, because we know that back in the spring when we had the remote learning, that, those copies and printing out, that was kind of a heavy lift for some of our parents, and so we wanted to make sure that we provided that. So we do have those black and white copies, but it does match up with what's available to them online as well. Next week, we will have some alternate locations on both sides of the parish for those who weren't able to make those pickups this week. So those will be available early on next week. And go to the next slide, just to give you a little quick peek at what what the virtual learning platforms look like. On the left side of the screen, you can see what the elementary, the kindergarten through 5th grade platform, a sample there. And then on the right side would be for our upper grade students in grades 6 through 12. Certainly the teachers that we have on staff will be working with our students and families to provide the needed support of the online learning platforms. And I would like to remind parents too of the virtual school students that information is available on our website. And that information is updated on a regular basis and is coming quite rapidly. So as things evolve, we're continuing to add that information to make sure that they have the most up-to-date information available. So looking at getting ready for our brick and mortar, our teachers have, since the return of our teachers, administrators, and school staff, they've all been working quite diligently to prepare for students to ensure that they have a safe return next week. They've been engaged in professional development. They've been posting signage around the school, and also they have been developing and practicing those new routines and procedures that they're going to need to make sure that things run smoothly. This week, our supervisors have been visiting the schools to also offer an additional layer of support to our administrators and, actually kind of walking around the campus to see if they have anything that, they need to discuss, follow up on, and maybe, brainstorm some final solutions. But certainly we want to make sure that we're giving them all of the support that they need. And it's always great anticipation for the first day of school, and I know that our students are super excited to return next week, and I know that the teachers are also excited to see them. As teachers, the feedback that we've been receiving from our teachers has certainly been positive, that they have felt supported, and they are truly excited to see next week occur as well. When you think about the first day of school, you kind of start reflecting, and when I was a classroom teacher, you always, or I tended to, and I know most of our teachers tended to overplan, and you never finish all of those things that you intend to do because you want to do so much. And I realized whenever the students would come in that it really is about the relationship and the interactions between the teachers and students. And I know that our teachers are certainly looking forward to having our students back on campus. If you see the images up there, just showing you a little bit of some of the professional development that we had going on with some virtual, as well as you can see all of the social distancing and everyone wearing masks for the teacher professional development. So as we look forward to the start of next week with our brick and mortar, we know that we are going to be in phase 2, and that for the pre-K to 5, that's going to be traditional. However, for our 6 to 12, that will be the hybrid model. So let's go ahead and take a look. We have a calendar that's posted on our website that actually shows the 2 cohorts with the hybrid days and the distance learning days. I believe that each of you received a copy of that at your seats tonight as well. So in looking at the hybrid model, I pulled up some information I got some screenshots of the materials that are available, and I focused in on the 6th grade math. And if you look here, this is actually a sample from the Google Classroom. You can see for week 1 for the 6th grade math class, it shows the cohort A and cohort B and how that alternates. And going to the next slide shows you how the content has been divided into both in-person instruction as independent, because we know that with the hybrid model, students will be in class on some days and then they'll be working from home on other days. So this shows you the assignments, both the in-person and the independent, and all of this is available in the Google Classroom. Remember, our guaranteed curriculum originally was a curriculum that was developed for our teachers, and our curriculum specialists have been busy converting it to the student-driven platform now. And this curriculum here is actually prepared for students, and you can see that those links are available for them. One question that we keep getting a lot from parents is about the amount of time that students would be expected to spend engaging in their learning on those distance days when they are actually at home. And just to kind of clarify that, the average amount of time is expected to be around 4 hours, which is also the same amount of time that we would anticipate students to be engaged in that type of learning as well for the virtual school students. So comparable, and knowing that, that's going to look differently based on the teacher's assignments. Some days may be heavier than others, just as typical, even if we were traditional 5 days a week, that different, assignments take a little bit more time and some take a little bit less. And also, too, depending on the grade span or the age of the child and the grade, there's also going to be variations there as well. So I wanted to give you another little peek of what it looks like inside of Google Classroom. So the way that the lessons are designed, there are the components of like watching and engaging in discussion, and also that independent practice piece. And here I took a shot of the watch, and you can see that the way that it's organized, this is the first unit, and you can see the different lessons. And the one that I had actually clicked on, this is not live, it's just a screenshot. The lesson 1 with ratios in the bottom right-hand corner shows you what the introduction of that video looks like, and they would click the button and watch the video. Also, too, there's a resource area that's available for students to use inside of the Google Classroom, and you'll notice all of the little icons on the shelves and also on the whiteboard and around the room. All of those are interactive, and here I clicked on the calculator, and you can see the calculator that pops up. So that's just to give you just a little inside look of what some of that's going to look like for our students. Since I joined the 6th grade math class, I also got an email announcement letting me know about the math office hours that are available for the teachers, so I thought I would go ahead and share that information with you as well. We certainly know that as we move forward, that adjustments are going to have to be made, that teachers, as they learn more and do more, that they're going to become, more proficient. But we want to make sure that we're providing support all along the way. The office hours that you see here aren't just for math teachers. All of our curriculum specialists are hosting the office hours for our teachers on a weekly basis so that they can go in, they can provide the curriculum specialists with feedback, and that they can also receive support if that's needed, as well as they'll have the opportunity to collaborate with their peers, which we think is important as well. So giving you a Chromebook update, Lewis and his team, they've been quite busy distributing Chromebooks. They started this week, and 4 days in, they have distributed over 13,000 Chromebooks to the schools this week alone for 4 days. So, that's began quite a task. And some of the images up here, you can see the schools are already busy distributing Chromebooks. The top left on the screen, that's an image of at the tech center, some of the Chromebooks that were delivered, and I think that was one shipment you see there. And Lewis said it's kind of hard to tell because those are, stacked kind of deep there, so it doesn't really do it justice, but we know that it's a tremendous amount of work. And you can see, I think the photos, I think we have one from Covington High School, and there's one also from Fontainebleau High School that they are distributing those to students, and I know I've heard of other schools who are starting that early as well. To date, we have distributed to 8 of the high schools, 7 of the junior highs, and I know Lewis and his team have scheduled deliveries for tomorrow and also on Tuesday as well, and hopefully getting word that more and more Chromebooks are coming in. All right. So I just wanted to remind everyone that our school year planning guide is posted on our website, and also any up-to-date information that we are continuing to keep that information as current as we possibly can, and working to address anything that comes up and making sure that parents have the information as it's needed. And as we prepare to start school next week. We also are remaining in close contact with, the Department of Education and the health officials, and making sure that as things change on that end as well, that we are changing. And I will tell you, and Mr. Jabbia and Mr. Kose can also attest, that we get new information on a daily basis and have to be able to kind of pivot and change direction sometimes. So I'm sure that we'll continue to get more changes. And we know certainly that it takes all of us working together and so that we can ensure that we are starting out the school year as safely as we possibly can, and know that we are also very committed to that goal to make a difference for every child every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I mean, this is amazing, and all your supervisors and all
Absolutely.
the teachers. I stopped in 3 of my schools this week, and I was just amazed at everything that they're doing. It is just incredible. They're all working so hard. I mean, it's one thing when we sit and we learn about it and you present it, but then seeing it in action, I mean, they are just amazing. They really are. So.
Absolutely, and this, with the amount of work that we have had to do, when it's really, and it's been all hands on deck. Everyone has really
so
stepped up and positive,
and
and it's great.
It's great.
And I'm glad
Wonderful.
that the supervisors are able to be with us tonight too as well.
It is, absolutely. Okay, questions? Yes, Mr. Nation. We're going to go this way down to Mr. Winkler and rotate around.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. And Mrs. Lemaine, as I said to you back when I called the special board meeting in July, thank you so much for the hard work, not only as as the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, but as you pointed out that night, as a parent of a teacher and as the grandmother of a student. So we know that you and the central office staff have our kids and our parents' interest at heart. Just a couple of questions. One, and honestly, this didn't occur to me till tonight, it didn't even occur to me at the July meeting. If the governor decides to put us back into phase 3, is our plan such that we will pivot to a phase 3, or phase 3, or is this for the semester, so to speak? Does that make sense?
So as far as what our current model is with phase 2, so we've had some conversation about that, and certainly if we move to phase 3, then we'll start, because what phase 3 does for us is it changes the percentage, the threshold for our buses, which is huge, because right now with transportation, we're at that 50% threshold with phase 2. So if we went to phase 3, that would put us at 75%, and I'm sure that we would start looking at, not developing plans because we have plans, but in moving in that direction, how quickly, certainly we would bring you that information to let you know how quickly we could move to getting us at full capacity. But
Okay.
that's the goal. That's always been the goal.
Thank you. And then the second question, regarding the virtual school, which, first of all, a comment, 5,000, I guess that's the largest school we have in the system right now, so.
Mr. Bouillon said that might be the largest school in the state.
Right. So it obviously is meeting a need, and I think and I think all of us hope, because we've been kicking this round for longer before the coronavirus, meeting a need not only for our coronavirus folks, but also for our homeschool folks as well, that may choose to come back into the St. Tammany school system through the virtual school. But the virtual school is still, just so that I'm clear about this, is still a semester commitment, right?
That's, at this time, yes, sir.
A semester commitment, that's regardless.
That's what we were asking.
Right, and that's regardless of if a person is regular ed or special ed, is that correct? And there's
At this time, yes, sir.
Okay.
That was what we requested.
That's what I thought. Okay, great. And then the last thing is just a comment with a teacher that I know fairly well. She has thoroughly enjoyed the Google Classroom, so, and it's been a great experience for her. The whole platform has been I can tell you firsthand, it's been very easy for her, and so it's been a great experience, so.
Good. And our curriculum specialists have put a lot of hours into preparing those units that they have up, so, certainly a thank you to them.
Great, thank you.
And when this particular teacher's happy, I'm happy, so there you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, anyone else to my right? Mr. Harrell?
A couple of quick questions on the hybrid model. You mentioned there's only going to be like 4 hours of work in there. Is there a time that they have to start, or can they start at 6 p.m.?
Right.
Or?
It's flexible. It's flexible on the days that they're distance, that they're at home. That amount of time is certainly flexible. So the expectation is that they do log in each day, that they're on the distance days, that, and that they do that work. But there's flex time there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Coach Luke?
Yes, real quick, Amy, if you can let us know a little bit about food service, how we kind of going to handle that a little bit for each of the different schools. You know, like high school, would we expect them to use the cafeteria or not, or?
So as far as, each school, is set up much differently, and it's just going to depend on each individual campus. And I know that the
Okay.
schools are working on all of those plans. So some schools, it may be that they have tables outside, and on some days they can, some classes might be able to go out. Some schools, maybe on a rotating basis. In the classroom, certainly, we're going to have some lunch and breakfast in the classrooms, but that's going to be specific to each school, and they're going to the greatest extent possible, be able to, are going to try to provide varied eating settings.
Yeah. Well, like grab and go too on the
Yeah.
days when they're staying at home. Who's going to handle passing that out if not the cafeteria ladies out?
They have a schedule,
They
and
have a
Mr. Kosei can probably speak better to that in more detail, but they do have a schedule where they will also be handling the grab and goes for those schools that are 6 to 12 on the hybrid, and also for the virtual as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dermott?
Thank you, Ms. Page. Amy, thank you again for all the work that you've done. I want to echo that as well. Mr. Nation took my real question. My second comment is, thank God you used Covington High's colors on this calendar. It looks real good.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. Mr. Winkler?
Working?
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Lemaine and Louis Bouillon, we threw a wrench into your works when we moved things around on you, but you've certainly, kept working and even made it, looks like you made it better. So thank you for all the work you did.
Definitely. Ms. Heights?
Ms. Lemaine, I appreciate the update on the virtual school. I was curious, how many of the students enrolled in the virtual school would be new students to our parish? Do you have that number?
So I ran that, I guess, time kind of gets away from you, but I think it's been, earlier in the week that I ran those, and we were a little over 400. But, I will be checking that again, because I monitor those numbers daily, but it does take a little bit to pull that together. But the count that I had earlier in the week was 410, and we're also in the process of determining exactly, where those students are coming from. So we have to do a little bit of follow-up to get that information. Right now, they're just coded as coming from outside of our school system.
Do we have any idea how many students who've never attended our school are new registries in our brick and mortar?
I don't have that, but I did hear from Ms. Wortman that we are getting some students who have moved in after Hurricane Laura that have evacuated and are staying with relatives. So we do have students that are enrolling due to that.
And we are doing a head count each of the 4 Safe Start days, and we will total those up at the end of the week to kind of see where we are.
It will be very interesting to know if our total enrollment.
Yes, I'm very,
you know.
very interested in that.
So
yes.
in preliminary, what it looks like, but of course, we have to wait until students actually show up. But looking at what's on the rolls, we look like we're kind of even. But again, we have to wait, because we don't know if some students are still on the rolls, but maybe won't show up.
Okay, thank you. Have we had a large number of students looking for assistance with Wi-Fi?
We've gotten a few calls on that, and I know that Mr. Bouillon is working to determine, do you want to answer that?
got a handful of calls on it. We actually got our hands on one this week. They're hard to come by. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can lock it down and just link it to the Chromebook so that the student can't use it for other means. We have to make sure, we have to filter that technology,
You're talking about,
the internet connection. the
okay, or
Wi-Fi.
is that like a MiFi thing? Is
Yeah,
that what you're-
basically, we're buying a cell phone and giving it to the student. And it has unlimited data, and what it does is it locks us into a year's contract. So I have to make sure that I can lock that down and filter that technology, and it's gonna do everything that we need it to do. So we're in the process. We've met with the company today. We got the pricing. Tuesday, we have management. We're meeting with all their engineers to go through the management consoles. And then we're gonna drive around with this thing and make sure that the coverage works in our parish, because we're gonna have two carriers. This is Sprint Mobile that we're dealing with now, and we're also gonna have to deal with Verizon, because some areas have better coverage than others. So we have to make sure that these are gonna work. So we're gonna have a combination of both. But we're probably in the next week, we'll start placing orders.
And we've asked our principals to forward those calls to Lewis.
Yes.
So that he can work on those, because we do want to try to accommodate those students that we can.
Thank you, Mr. Javier. You gave the less technical response.
I gave what?
The less technical response.
We call him Lewis as a second language, so
Right,
yeah.
right. Thank you, I needed that. And, I'd like to also say that the planning guide, the frequently asked questions, the learning calendar, I think are so helpful to the community, because I'll think of a question, during the night, and then I'll look through those things to try to find the answer, and so I really have appreciated those documents. They've been very helpful. And the last thing I'd like to say is, Ms. Lemaine mentioned in her initial part of the presentation, great anticipation, which, being the mother of former students, being a former teacher, I sure remember those great anticipation evenings. But that led me to another thought, which was great expectations. And I think here in St. Tammany Parish, in fact, I don't think it, I know it, our students, our parents have great expectations for our school system. And I feel very pleased that we've done so well with our training, and we've prepared our schools, and I thank you all for that, and I feel like we will meet those great expectations.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Heights. Ms. Richardson?
My only question is centered around, again, the numbers, and I know you're working on that, but I am just interested in knowing the number of children that are the families choosing to stay home and homeschool, or they've literally exited the system because they don't think it's safe to come to school. I'm just curious what that number is. Do we have any ballpark?
No, but I can certainly look that information. I can run those reports and get that to you. And we won't know for sure, like we said, until next week when students start arriving. So the numbers that I ran were the numbers who were coming in to the virtual, and then too, we know that if we have over 5,000 students in the virtual and around 400 plus were from outside, that's a large number who've dropped from the brick and mortar to go to the virtual school. And that was certainly the intent. Well, not originally with the virtual school. I was only expecting 300 to 500 students, but now we have 5,000. But certainly are glad that we have that option so that parents have a choice if they're not comfortable with the brick and mortar at this point.
Thank you.
We won't know, students can drop, parents can drop their kids. We won't know whether they're homeschooling or maybe in another virtual school. We do have MOUs with all the virtual schools that any of our kids from our parish that go to that school, they have to report those kids to us so we know who it is and where they're going. That takes a little while to get all of that done.
Right.
You follow
For
what I
said?
instance, like K12.org, wouldn't that be an example of a virtual school that, would they have to report the students that are from us?
Actually, the
Anybody that
states-
receives any of our students, they have to, by law, report to us because they're getting the funding for our kids. So we have to make
Got
sure
my
that.
next question.
Yeah.
So I'm taking, they then get our funding.
That's correct.
Okay, very
So
good.
they have
Right.
to prove that
Well,
they have
not very
them.
good, but I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
let me retract that.
There you go.
That's all
So-
my questions, thank you.
Yes.
And good job.
And I'll make sure that I have those numbers. I hadn't thought of it from that
Yeah,
perspective,
I was
so I'll
just
look at
curious
those
on
for
the
next
bottom
time.
end. Thank you, though, for all your hard work as well for the IT, and
Right.
that is just paramount, what you're doing, so thank you.
And I do have to say, the supervisors, I mean, they really have just been nonstop and done so much. And out at the schools, the teachers and the administrators, it's certainly been a team effort.
Definitely. Ms. Lamy?
Thank you, Ms. Page.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask about the hybrid model. I love that you showed us the examples, so thank you for that. That just
Good.
got me excited. I love the resource shelf. That's so cool. But is this something that our curriculum specialists have put together as
Yes.
far as the lesson plans? So individual teachers are not putting lesson plans on for virtual
They are
school.
taking from that and making their own, so they have it there to
Okay.
populate their own and certainly customize and make it their own.
Okay, so if they need to for students, they can, but we're all on the same page type thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I
Which
wanted to
is the
know.
whole point of the
Awesome.
guarantee curriculum.
Right, which is great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And yes, thank you to all of the curriculum specialists. I want to shout out to all of you because you don't stand up here, but I know what you're doing, so thank you so much.
Mr. Kuzan?
All our transportation issues lined up, the buses lined up, ready to go. We have an idea. If everything's cool on that,
Right.
Yes, sir, we're getting up. Let me turn my mic. Today is Thursday, yes. All of our clerical, we're putting into JPAMs, whether the student is riding a bus or they're coming in a car or driving themselves. So all of that's done, so we're about to get those numbers so we can start working on that. We're gonna use those numbers and our safe start so that we'll be ready to go when we have the full load on the week after that. We've rented 10 extra buses for extra routes if we need to add any routes to it.
okay, thank you. One more question. On the Chromebooks, is there a guarantee that we're gonna get them all? I know everybody's trying to get them, okay, so,
They told us we'd get them. That's all we can go by. They said they're coming. In the next
And
3
they're,
weeks,
and
is that right, Louis?
so,
The next,
right, they're,
I'm sorry, the next 3 weeks, you're thinking we should have all of them?
and the
That's all I got.
deliver, at the rate that they're being delivered, I think that Lewis would agree. I mean, they've been pretty dependable and true to their word, so we are certainly optimistic that they're gonna continue to satisfy those orders for us. So, and also with the transportation, we're in the process, like Mr. Jabbia said, of running those reports that, George and I will have those out to the schools over the weekend, and we'll be checking the kids off as they get off the bus so that we have a firm count, for the following week when they're all coming.
once again, congratulations on the work that you guys are doing. I think you're doing a fantastic job, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bro?
Yes, thank you. My first question is pretty much the same thing that Mr. Kuzan just spoke about, and that was when are the rest coming in of the Chromebooks?
Right.
Is there a priority? Because I understand that we're not going to get all that we want right now, but isn't the priority that we do the hybrid model first, and then the virtual school, and then the 1st through 6th, which are...
That is correct. That's
Okay.
our plan, and right now, we feel like we have enough to satisfy the 6 to 12 for the hybrid, and we're working on the virtual. So as those come in, we're going to be turning those around, and then we'll work on the K to 5. And also, some of the teachers as well are still, waiting on those devices.
Okay. And then the question about MiFi, I know we discussed this like 2 months ago when we first started, but I guess they're hard to come by, and we haven't gotten any in place yet. Is that correct?
Right. And I think too that, it's figuring out what is going to work and the information, sometimes the information that you get doesn't always pan out on some of these. And it's a matter of, when you think about the rural areas, things working and making sure, like, Lewis was saying, that we have to make sure that what we do get is secure so that it can be controlled for us to give to students. We want it to be safe. So it's a lot more involved than what we
We actually have an advantage over the other districts that already started have already tried to deploy the MiFis, and I'm watching the problems they're having and trying to avoid those problems. So that's why we're trying to work with certain vendors, and that's kind of what's delaying us making that order.
I understand they could be downloading movies and all kinds of stuff with the,
Yes.
with the MiFi.
So
and you have to kind of
I
lock it
talked to
down.
all the other tech directors in the state, and many of them have been in school for a month already and have tried to deploy some of them. So we're trying to learn from their mistakes.
And then, I know when we first started talking about the hybrid model, I think the plan, or at least my understanding, was the teacher was going to have simultaneously be teaching on the Chromebook and the physical classroom at the same time. And I always thought that was going to be rather difficult. And I think what we've evolved to is some kind of assignment where they will be working with flexible time periods for approximately 4 hours a day, and not necessarily sitting there at the same time the teacher is online.
But they could. So
Okay.
just so that it's flexible, and when they log in to the Google Classroom and they're working, the teacher can see that they're working. So, it might be that a student chooses to log in at the same time he or she would normally have that class with that teacher and, interact in that platform, and the teacher could see them working at the same time as well. But two, it's flexible that if they're working independently, they can do that on their own time. So it's just, being flexible in our expectations as far as students logging on, knowing that when they're at home, that, there could be a variety of different situations that they may not be able to log on at exactly that right time. So at that same time. So we want to make sure that we're being flexible and reasonable.
Okay, I just
So they
wanna
have
add
the option of both.
One more comment that
Yes, sir.
I want to
One
add
more.
my appreciation for all the work that you guys are doing.
It's a good comment.
I know it's a lot of hard work, and we have to evolve and go with the flow. And I hope everything works out,
Me too.
It's going to be, it has been a challenge, and I know it will continue to be a challenge, but let's hope for the best.
Absolutely. And as things come up, we're going to continue to work and address, any issues that we encounter and problem solve, and just keep working until we get things to exactly where they need to be.
Great, thank you. Ms. Drucker, please.
I had a question in regards to the hybrid. As far as the students they log in on, are we going to keep track, or are we going to hold them to the 4 hours for
No,
accountability?
they just need to log in, because, some students, it could be that they log in and they get those assignments, or they downloaded the assignments when they were on campus, and they can actually work offline and complete those and then upload them when they return back to campus. So we're going to be flexible with that, and not hold them to that time requirement in the hybrid model, just knowing that they do have to log on each day, but it will be flexible time. And, some students, they may do 2 hours of the work the night before their distance day, and then do minimal that day. So, the main thing is that they get the work done and that they are logging on those distance days. But no, the 4 hours is just going to be an average of what might be expected.
And every student, will work, some will work faster, some will work slower.
Exactly.
So, it works out, it's
Exactly.
called adaptability.
Right.
So, I like
That's
the
correct.
fact that we have the flexibility, and thank you for the clarification, because I know we have a lot of parents who are watching tonight.
Right.
And so that gives, an answer to all of our parents who are like, well, what about logging on? When do we log on? And if they don't log on
Absolutely.
within the teacher time period, that, they're not going to get any repercussions from, as long as the work is getting done, is from what I
Right.
hear.
And once the kids return to, our teachers have a lot of these same questions, because it's like, in theory, things are one way, and then in reality, sometimes it's a little bit different. And I know that, our teachers are committed to making this work, and they'll be making adjustments in the way that they provide the assignments to students and their learning plans. And I'm sure that they'll be getting feedback from the students as well, so.
And I love that, because what the gain here is for them to learn the subject, not the, pinpointing how many hours you spend, as long as they're getting, what we're trying to convey to whatever we're
Absolutely.
teaching.
It's no different than, absolutely.
So, The next question I have is in regards to the virtual schooling. Is there a cutoff date for enrollment?
So, right now, we are scheduling the over 5,000 students, and so that is quite a task. So as far as registration, if someone registers at this point, there's no guarantee that we would have a schedule ready, so there may be some delays in that. So as far as cutting off, us being able to say that that student would be ready to go for the first day would be a challenge, but certainly as students register, we're going to accommodate that. Especially, when you look at, we're getting students who are enrolling that have evacuated, because of Hurricane Laura, that, certainly that's going to be something I think that we have to take into consideration and have a little bit of flexibility.
So I'm sure we're going to go ahead and keep stats on all that for
Yes,
those
ma'am.
who are coming from outside, like the Lake Charles area.
Yes.
But as well as I would be interested in where the students are coming from, which schools who are enrolled in virtual as well.
And we are collecting that information. Like I explained earlier, I have the numbers, and it says coming from outside of our current schools, that they weren't previously enrolled with us, but that we have to do a little bit of follow-up with the parents to see exactly where students are coming from. So as we get that additional information, I'll be able to share more.
Any more questions, Sharon?
I don't have a question, but I do want to truly thank from the bottom of my heart, because I've talked to my principals in my district, and especially from Madisonville Elementary, because my elementary schools, sometimes they get overlooked because our high schools are so, I guess, popular because of our graduation rates and all that. But Madison Elementary, Lancaster, my elementary schools have said so many wonderful things about Ms. LeMay, as far as the attention, actually coming to the school, going through the logistics regarding transportation, food services, the attention that they really needed, and the confidence for our principals, but not only my principals, but the teachers there to get us all started for a wonderful school year. I know there was a questionability whether or not pushing back was a smart move, but I have all the confidence that we are setting ourselves up for success after Labor Day. And like I said, kudos to our administration. I believe that we are definitely ready for our students to be successful in coming in. And I know that our kids are looking forward to it. So kudos, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Green, you're up. Nope, you good? Mr. Hersey?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Ron.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Ms. LeMay, explain to me, if you would, how, since most of our middle schools are 4th, 5th, and 6th, how did it come about that the 6th was included in the hybrids versus being with the other kids, the
Right.
lower
Right.
grades?
So when you look at sixth grade, really what it comes down to is so we had to pick a grade, 5th or 6th. And so when you look at 6th, when they're on a junior high campus, like the 6th, 7th, and 8th, your teachers teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and it would mean having to do an everyday schedule mixed in with a hybrid schedule, and there was just really no way to make that work. And then the other piece, too, is keeping in mind the transportation, and we have that 50% threshold, and so that's, with the 6 being hybrid, it also helps out with the bus capacity. And then we have the class size restriction that we can't have more than 25 people in one room. So that's basically 24 students and 1 teacher. And when you look at our K-3, our class sizes are 20 and less. And then 4th and 5th are typically between 20 and 24. It's when you get into those 6th grade classes up, that those really are the classes that have the larger numbers, 26, 28, 32. And with the class size restriction being 24 students plus 1 teacher for a total of 25, it really does limit us. And those are the factors that we looked at. We really, tried to look at everything and do the best that we possibly could. But we're going to be watching all of those numbers to see, if we can do more, for sure.
Okay. The other thing, Mr. Bro asked the question. Would you go over that, the pecking order again for the Chromebooks? It was the hybrid students
So,
first?
right now, we are delivering those to the schools. We finished high schools, a good portion of the junior highs. We're gonna finish out, for the hybrid days. And also to, the next piece of that is the virtual, for any critical needs that we would have through the virtual. We know a lot of them have their own technology available, and we would be, addressing any needs that we have there, and then we're gonna work our way down. And also to trying to take care of our teachers at the same time.
So from what Mr. Bouillon reported, probably within the next month or thereabouts, the virtuals should have their Chromebooks, whatever, because you said
We're-
about 3 weeks, and then it's gonna
we're
take
working.
time to set them all up.
Do you wanna answer?
You gotta take time to set them up. so it's
Yeah, he
probably
does.
longer than 3 weeks.
Well, that's why I said a month.
Might be longer than a month.
Okay,
It depends on when they come in, Mr. Bedford.
right.
Yeah, we're trying to get 6 through 12, so we're about 3,500 from meeting that goal now. So hopefully by Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we will have those done. But we're going to slow down probably tomorrow and early next week to make sure that all of our teachers have everything they need as for technology-wise in their classroom, make sure their projectors start up. So we're going to have a little slowdown right when we start school, and then we'll go back to configuring and then distributing again. So that's the
Okay.
only thing that's going to slow us down.
All right, thank you. The other thing, Mrs. Lemaine,
Yes, sir.
we were told in the last couple of updates and stuff, as far as anything concerning the virus issues, the safety protocols and all, we're getting information and recommendations from medical professionals, right?
Correct.
Ochsner and what
Yes, sir.
have you.
Correct. And also from the Office of Public Health, we received some additional updates today, so we're constantly staying up to date with that.
Yeah, they're offering whatever, best practices or, the way to go as far as these safety issues are concerned?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is I've gotten a few emails and all from librarians, some itinerants who don't seem real happy, but I think their argument is going to be with the medical professionals, not with the central office. We're getting professional advice on how to deal with those issues.
Correct, and there are, right, correct, and there are a lot of things that you have to look at, when you're considering what approach you're going to take,
Right.
and you have to consider high touch and the amount of times that items are touched, and when you move kids in and out of different spaces, that those spaces have to be cleaned in between those groups, as
Right.
opposed to them being in a static group where they're, self-contained and someone is going in. So, just lots of different variables and trying to manage all that and reduce the amount of risk overall. So,
So I'm just going to start referring them to Ochsner's, okay?
Refer them to us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Amy, thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything else for Ms. Lemaine? All right, thank you so much. Okay, with no further business, I declare this meeting adjourned.